Hello. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you are. I apologize today. I'm a bit rushed to be here, but I also feel the need to show up today, or maybe I should have done it sooner, but I wish I could condense this. I need to do this in both Acholi and English. So I'm going to do the English version in brief because my Acholi version needs to be a bit longer. So it's really hot here today. Let me see if that helps. I don't know if it does. If it doesn't, we'll shut it. But we need some sort of lighting to be able to do this. Okay. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you are. My name is Lady Winnie Allison. I'm coming to you from the United States. I am here to talk a bit about what is happening on the world stage that has to do with Uganda. It's important for me to highlight this in both Acholi and English. I think that when I came out with when I came out with the post about Mr. Olala or Dr. Olala Otunu, the position that I came out with has stirred a lot of misunderstanding for what I said in particular and what has been said also by other, people that have platforms that do podcasts. I've had responses through DMs and emails and WhatsApp communications. So I've had a lot of engagement, which is good because we do need engagement. I would like to highlight the fact that I'm an Acholi. I come from Pade. I've had a lot of exposure in Ugandan politics by being raised in a family where there was a politician and also a previous marriage with somebody who has been in politics. I particularly want to highlight the factor of Olala Otunu coming to or being endorsed by Museveni to run for office, the UN chief office. There's a lot of debate, there's a lot that's being said. I want to defend my position because I've gotten a lot of backlash from people from northern Uganda, Acholi, especially where I come from, where Olala Otunu also comes from. I would like to go as far back as before Museveni took power in Uganda. I'd like to highlight that and bring you to why I say what I say and why I'm here now. You've all seen the videos that I've been sharing about the LRA war and northern Uganda. Okay. I have watched my senior people, Norbert Mao, Olala Otunu, and Ali Madi, Dr. Ali Madi, who lives in, I believe, New York. I've also been educated on a little bit or more background. I've done a lot of research about what has been going on in northern Uganda for several decades, actually, several decades. I want to try, and I'm not here to make people agree with me. No, some people will not And that's okay, because we must agree to disagree and then let the chips fall where they may fall. I draw my concerns about electing Olala Otunu from, hello, welcome. Julian, thank you. Thank you for coming. Trevor, you're welcome. Matthias, you're welcome. Gwen, you're very welcome. So I draw my rejection, and I will continue to say rejection or dissatisfaction of having Museveni endorse Olala Otunu to this office because of the following reasons, which I'm going to go back as far as 1980. Okay, 1980. The topic of that, where I did a lot of the studying and the history of northern Uganda, is from, if you want to look it up on YouTube, there's several videos where Honorable Mao is featured, Dr. Ali Mahdi is featured, Olala Otunu is featured, several other Betty Bigombe, several other Acholi leaders are featured, and this has to do with the LRA war. So when Museveni came into power in 1986, Museveni obviously came in with knowledge of where the previous leadership of Uganda had come from, knowing that Idi Amin was from West Nile, then Obote, all from sort of north. Museveni decided to figure out how to eliminate or reduce on the strength or capability of the people from those regions from regrouping to come back and take power away from him. Because Obote left with an instruction or advice saying, this guy, Museveni, is not a good person. So at that time, Museveni came in and figured he has to find a way to eliminate Acholi people or people from those regions. And right in 1986, the LRA war started. Okay, which the people who will speak in those videos will tell you that the people that killed them, and there's a gentleman called Mr. Green who attests, Adam Green, who attests to the facts that the people who are killing the people of northern Uganda were actually Museveni's people. And it was a plot by Museveni to do that so that he can control, subdue, or finish the Acholi people as a people. Okay? So leaving that at that, the movie is called A Brilliant Genocide. A brilliant genocide in way of Museveni performing these atrocities without being caught or being known to. Because when he started the LRA war, when they say Joseph Kony being the leader of that war, Joseph Kony actually was a rebel group trying to fight Museveni away from being the president of Uganda, knowing for a fact that Museveni was a Rwandese person with very ill intentions, as Obote had advised or recommended. So in 1986, a lot of resistance was still in northern Uganda because they were aware of Museveni not being the right person. So from 1986, when the LRA war started, it is estimated that at least 1,000 more than documented people were killed every single week in Acholi sub-region or northern Uganda by these Museveni people. 1,000 people. 1,000 people 1 week. Each week means 52,000 people per year, because there's 52 weeks in a year, which eventually means over 1 million Acholi people were killed during this war. He made sure that he figured out how to push the Acholi people into concentrated camps where they would die of starvation. They had poor health care, poor hydration, no food. sexual violence by the military of Museveni. And all this is documented by the World Health Organization. In the report by World Health Organization, they say an excess of 1,000 people died every week, totaling to, for 20 whole years, how many millions of people died in that region. Millions. John Egard, who was the UN General Secretary for Humanitarian Affairs at that time, knew those facts and actually said that the LRA war was the most neglected crisis of the world. He was the UN Secretary of Humanitarian Affairs at the time. He even wrote about it, and if you have to look, everything that I'm telling you is not my opinion. It's all documented. YouTube has it. You know, the internet has it. You can Google it. You can do whatever you want. You will find it. It's all there. Okay? So John Egard of the UN Undersecretary for Humanitarian Affairs documents it very clearly. Okay? In another twist, Museveni, the same Museveni from the LRA war, Museveni, okay? This is now in Somalia. The reason why the West and Europe and so on and so forth have given Museveni peaceful night's sleep is because Museveni has also paused in those areas as the peacekeeper of the region. Instead of troops of the Western world or any other part of the world going to die in Somalia, Museveni showed up and said, I can do this. I can send my troops to Somalia to keep peace. Now, if you know about international peace and peacekeeping and all this and that, it's better for most people in an international organization of peace or whatever region of peace to try to maintain security in a place to contain it so that it doesn't get everywhere. Okay, trying to maintain world peace means containing or putting out a fire in a region whenever it starts. So Museveni came up and said, and there's a video that I've shared where Museveni said he started fighting Gaddafi before America did. And he was talking to President, I don't quite remember, but if you remember the name, I think one of the US presidents, Ronald Reagan, if I'm not mistaken, was the president. They were in a sort of a waiting area where Museveni said, I started fighting Gaddafi before the US did. Now, that's Gaddafi. Now, in Somalia, it is documented that at least 10,000 Ugandan troops have died in Somalia because Museveni offered them to go and fight a war in Somalia to hoodwink the Western world, to say and have him being called a peacekeeper, you know, which he has done for so many years. So because Museveni offered himself saying he's going to fight Al-Shabaab, fight Islamists, fight Muslims, fight jihad, in Libya, he handed over Gaddafi for what happened to Gaddafi. And in Somalia, he did the same thing. So the West sort of gave Museveni a deaf ear and focused on giving Museveni a blank check to do whatever he wants and funding him because they believed that Museveni was doing so. It is also documented in Somalia that Museveni was the same person who would set up his troops to go and either sell guns to the local Somalians to try to get them to fight them in a way of keeping the flames burning in Somalia. He sold weapons to civilians and empowered them to be able to attack so that he seems busy in Somalia. Okay? And so somehow, because every time the US will question Museveni for accountability of human rights in his home, Museveni will say, well, I'm going to pull out of Somalia. How about that? So then the US and the Western world will say, you know what? Okay, forget it. I was joking. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's forget about human rights violations in your home area. And so they kept swatting all of the efforts of human rights problems in Uganda being shared on the right platform to fall on the right ears. Because Museveni had a blank check to do whatever he wanted as long as he kept the so-called peace in Somalia, which he had the West seeming like it's all under control. Okay? So after that, convincing the US and the West and the UN and so on of that, we now move on to a country called Congo. In Congo, Uganda, Museveni still is the perpetrator of the war in Congo. It is documented by the UN reports that at least 6 million Congolese have been, and this was 9 years ago, 6 million Congolese have been killed in Congo by Museveni's invasion and participation in that area of Congo. Again, being that it is a region, Congo is a wealthy country with a lot of minerals and all these things. Now, with that said, Museveni was in Congo, he still is, but also many other Western world was involved in Congo and they were benefiting from the wealth and so on and so forth. However, because the killing was too much in Congo, okay, Museveni, despite still being protected, the International Court of Justice filed a case against Museveni in 2005. This is all public record. I'm not telling you something that I'm making up or it's a secret. You can go and Google all this information and figure out what the facts are. I'm just giving them to you so you understand where we're coming from when we say, why now? And it's not a good idea for Olala Otunu to be the person of the UN position. So speaking about Congo, okay, so after the International Court of Justice files a case against Museveni for the atrocities in Congo, for over 6 million deaths in Congo, guess what happens? Because all of the other countries are benefiting from, France, whatever, all the colonialists of Congo were benefiting from Congo. They again try not to get too involved with Museveni, because every time they want to ask Museveni a question about accountability, Museveni says, well, I'm going to pull out of this and that. I'm not going to protect Somalia. I'm not going to keep peace here and there. He portrayed himself as a peacekeeper, which it was bought, because to avoid an international or a third world war, they would rather fan a flame in a certain country to maintain peace in a vast area. Okay, so what I'm giving you is public information, public record. It's all over the internet. Okay, so because the Court of Justice, when the case was filed at the Court of Justice, it was ruled against Museveni, and Museveni was ordered to pay $10 billion to Congo because of the killings of the people and for depleting the wealth and natural resources in Congo. You would think, just like when there is, when you go to apply for a visa for, let's say, United States, and you're denied for whatever reason, or you're deported, your history or your information is shared to the Western worlds so that they don't have to go through interviewing you and wasting resources again. So what we expected would be, or the world expected, that after the International Court of Justice ruling against Museveni and ordering him to pay $10 billion to Congo, you would think that the UN would take it up and apply it also, because it maintains international peace, or it brings about justice all over the world. So that did not happen. The reason why that did not happen, that case was referred to the ICC, International Criminal Court of the UN, to handle the same case, to try to expedite things and make sure Museveni pays for what has been, for the judgment. When the case gets to the UN, and it did get there on June 8th, 2006. That's according to the Sorry, that's not the date when it was filed, but that's something else in the future. So the ICC takes on the case, and before the case is heard, okay, a publication on the Wall Street Journal on June 8th, 2006 states that Museveni himself called the current, at that time, the UN chief of the time, Kofi Annan. And Museveni called Kofi Annan. This is on the Wall Street Journal. You can go and look it up. The date of the journal was June 8th, 2006. The document that was written about the call by Museveni to Kofi Annan. And Museveni asked Kofi Annan not to make sure that that case is not heard or that case dies a natural death. Basically, instantly. Just like Museveni manipulates things back home, Museveni was able to manipulate this case at this level, at the UN. That's the problem. Museveni needs to begin answering some of these things instead of having an enabler at the top to swat things again and again and again. This is why we're saying Museveni is used to a soft landing. Olala Otunu at that stage will be a soft landing for Museveni yet again. Uganda deserves better. Uganda deserves change. Uganda deserves a new government. So anyway, Museveni calls Kofi Annan and asks him to block all investigation about that case that took place at the International Court of Justices. So that case died a natural death. Yet again, how many countries are those? Northern Uganda in Uganda, Somalia in Somalia, Congo. We're going to move on to another country. Okay, let's finish this first. We would have expected that the ICC would use that platform to sort of ask Museveni for accountability at that time. But even then, Museveni slipped away. Despite Kofi Annan being from Ghana and having no personal ties with Museveni, Museveni was able to influence Kofi Annan to drop a case against Congo that had already been ruled by the International Court of Justice. Okay? So moving on to the next country, South Sudan. Museveni has heavy influence in South Sudan. Okay? We all know that. The country of South Sudan has not seen peace since its birth, since South Sudan became a country. Reason being that Museveni is in there like a bug. He does not let South Sudan do what it wants for itself. You know what I mean? So the fact that he prefers Salva Kiir over Riek Machar, these are matters of a different country. So what if Museveni likes whoever? Why does Museveni's opinion have to be or uphold in foreign land? He talked about sovereignty. Why does Museveni have to control South Sudan and the politics of South Sudan and who South Sudan wants to have as president? Why must it be Museveni? So Museveni also caused a lot of bloodshed and is still causing bloodshed in South Sudan. So far, for 40 long years, and I haven't gotten to Rwanda yet, Somalia, Uganda, Congo, South Sudan, all Museveni. Now I'm going to move on to Rwanda. Okay? As I mentioned earlier, Museveni is better off. The best thing to do for this whole East African region is to have Museveni not exist. And all these wars will stop. There will be some sort of stability. There will be less refugee trafficking all over the globe because the only cause of trouble in East Africa is who? Museveni. Next, I'm going to move on to Rwanda. That brings us to the 5th country about this Museveni man. In Rwanda, the genocide that happened in 1994, we heard of it as happening or beginning to happen in 1994. Truly, turbulence started in Rwanda in 1991. Museveni launched an attack on Rwanda in 1991. Museveni personally launched an attack on Rwanda in 1991 all by himself. Why? He did that because he wanted to launch his own favorite president, Kagame, as the president of Rwanda. For 4 years, there was disturbance. There was, all manner of atrocity happening amongst the Rwandese communities. The people of Rwanda were just killing each other. Like, just not even knowing what is going on. Why are we so unhappy? Why don't we get along? Guess who was in the background? Museveni. Okay? So in 1994, the genocide, the official beginning of the genocide in Rwanda was in 1994 when the presidential plane got shot. Again, shot by Museveni. Habyarimana. By Museveni. At that time, Rwanda did not see peace until the end of the Rwandese genocide, and it is documented and recorded, and people of Rwandese descent will tell you that Museveni was the cause of instability in Rwanda, causing and leading to the genocide. I know that people are up in arms with emotions about this, that, and the other. I'm telling you facts. They're online. They're not my opinions. I did not make them up. I'm bringing them to you as is. So, the reason why Otunu is not a great choice is not, and in fact, it doesn't matter where Otunu is from. For me, anybody from Uganda that is going to be endorsed by Museveni is not good for that position. Doesn't matter the tribe. Does not matter the tribe. The reason being that Museveni right now is under pressure to produce accountability for all the crimes that he's committed. All the contracts have been pulled from him. Sudan is being investigated. Documentation from Rwanda indicates that he had a major hand in the genocide in Rwanda. The atrocities that are coming and being reported from Uganda are being recorded, and Museveni is being requested to prove and give account for things that have been happening. In South Sudan, there's investigation going on. I already talked about that. In Congo, M23 have been pushed out of Congo. Museveni has been known to be the person behind Congolese with Kagame. Kagame has thrown Museveni under the bus and said it was Museveni's people. I'm not the one to do with M23. Museveni's world is closing in because the world does not need him anymore, because they figured out that all he did was wear rosy glasses and lie to them. And lie and lie and lie about being a peacekeeper. He was not keeping peace there. So it is not because Otunu Olala is from from Acholi tribe. Many Acholi people have come against me. Many of you have sent me nasty messages. Many Acholi people I have had to block and unfriend because of the way you're coming at me. It is not my personal opinion. I'm actually protecting the person of Otunu, because if you do remember all the positions that have been given to Acholi people, they have taken it, but also taken a bullet with it. Many of the Acholi people have had positions, okay, of high places from Acholi. Either they're not here or they're completely compromised, if any. Honorable Mao is a beloved Acholi elder. I mean, I can't even tell you the magnitude of how much love the Acholi people have for Honorable Mao. And I'm not speaking because I'm being tribalistic or anything. I want to give my people an example that we can go by and not point fingers about who's saying this because they believe in that, because they're that tribe or the other. It's not about being a tribe. It's about Museveni being in a tight corner where he needs somebody to swat all his crimes and soften the blow, and in fact, if possible, make things disappear. Make all these crimes that Museveni, that Otunu even spoke about himself. He wants those crimes to disappear. But who does he want to clean it up? He wants Otunu to clean it up. That should not be Otunu's job. Otunu has asked Museveni before to second him for other UN positions. Museveni said no. In fact, when Otunu was asked to do this, Otunu had questions. Otunu's friends who are in high places were the ones who convinced him to step up and take up the job that has been offered to him. But knowing the person of Otunu, he did not want the position. And if you don't trust me, that's okay. But I know, because I've heard from the right sources of our people, our elders. He did not want the position. But Museveni needs somebody to mop up his vomit at that level. That's the problem that we all have. No Ugandan should be put in that position to have to go and clean up Museveni's mess. Museveni is afraid that of the lineup of the 8, none of them is somebody that he could potentially work with, especially the people who are slated to be ahead. None of them are people that Museveni can call and say, hey, by the way, you owe me a favor. Or, by the way, I know you from somewhere. Or, by the way, I'm Museveni, and try to sweet talk them. These ladies who are leading have no business with this Museveni person. And if it becomes them, Museveni will have a very hard time. That is why the nomination of Otunu came later. It was not, he didn't come right away when they announced the position is becoming vacant. No, it was strategic. But like Museveni does all the time, Museveni is a strategic person. Museveni doesn't do things just because, and especially if it benefits people of Uganda, he does not do it for that reason. If this position was viable, like I said earlier, sure, there would be a Rwandese guy taking over this position and maybe would not hear about it. Why didn't he nominate Ruhakana Rugunda, who is already there anyway? Ruhakana Rugunda is there with Otunu. But just like Museveni uses Ugandan policemen to go and beat Ugandans at campaign trails, uses Ugandan military to go and kill each other, to go and kill Ugandans. Ugandan military were heard speaking in Acholi when the LRA war was happening. It was our brothers and sisters who were the ones coming to rape the men, to rape the women, to cut off their mouth. It was people of Ugandan descent. It is about time that we don't give Museveni anybody else to continue to get Museveni's record clean. No, no. Honorable Mao is a great example of what Museveni can do to you when he gives you anything. But many of you know that Museveni does not give you anything for nothing. Honorable Mao said he's going Sijui to create Sijui relationships, Sijui this, that, DP and blah, blah, blah. Well, where is he now? He didn't even vote himself. That's what Museveni does. That is what Museveni does. So people who are fighting, people like Lumbuye, Lumbuye's business has been the study of Museveni and Museveni-isms. That's what Lumbuye is a student, a PhD holder of Museveni-isms. Lumbuye knows him this is not a tribal issue. Please understand. It is not a tribal issue. It is not. My people who are whipping me left and right, it is not a tribal issue. Museveni has to answer for the LRA wars. Museveni has to answer for what happened to Acholi people. Museveni has to answer for all this documented history of the people who say they were raped. The men who say they were raped before their family, before their wives, before their children. The men whose parts were cut off and put in their mouth. Museveni must answer to those. Museveni must answer to nodding disease. Which nodding disease, by the way, according to this document, you can look online and I've shared it as well. Nodding disease is caused by, how many of you have heard of Agent Orange? Agent Orange is a forbidden chemical agent which was used in mass wars, where a helicopter will fly over a region and spray something. It happened in, I think, China and Vietnam during those major world wars. They flew helicopters or airplanes with Agent Orange, a chemical inside, which caused chemical warfare. People today are born with one eye only, without limbs, and it has caused major defects. So some of that chemical is believed to be the cause of nodding disease in northern Uganda. It is documented. Honorable Mao said it on the documentary. World Health Organization, in fact, CDC, what's CDC? I know what it is. CDC, which is, one second. I want to say it right because it's going to tie it in well. Centers for Disease Control is CDC. Honorable Mao, in the documented video, says that CDC has studied nodding disease, which is a disease only in northern Uganda, only along a body of water where the children are born with a disease which causes them to nod, and whatever is in front of them, they will nod until the seizure, the moment of seizing, stops, which sometimes they end up in fire, they end up falling on tools, they end up hitting their head on a rock. In fact, mothers these days, and for a while, have had, sometimes you have 3 children with the disease, and you still have to go to the garden to fend for food. What they did was tie the child to a tree like a goat and go farming. And this child will stay in that same spot and pee in the same spot and waste, in the same spot. So if not nodding disease taking their life, the health conditions or whatever the case might be will take their lives, okay? So nodding disease is a condition that was caused purposely by Museveni to try to reduce the population of northern Uganda, to try to eliminate the north completely. And those are all files at the ICC. CDC right now, Centers for Disease Control, has a report on the causes, possible, likely, documented, investigated causes of the disease. And it is linked to chemicals of warfare. That's the right wording for it. Chemicals of warfare due to the aftermath of the war, the LRA war, which was perpetrated by Museveni, has caused several cases of nodding disease. And this disease continues because it alters genetics of the existing parent or the child who is born. Once that agent is in them, they continue to produce, once they have a match enough in the DNA of the partner they have to have a child, to cause even more offsprings with the disease. So CDC has the report. They have handed it to Museveni, but Museveni is tight-lipped about this report regarding the cause of nodding disease in Uganda. It is no wonder there has been zero government help for the nodding disease in Uganda. Despite Salim Saleh pitching camp in Acholi, nodding disease has seen no treatment, no care, no investigation, because they have the true report from CDC saying the cause of that thing is like Agent Orange. If you've heard, go and Google Agent Orange online and you will see the aftermath of Agent Orange and you will not believe it. People born with one eye, people born without nostrils, people born without limbs, because this stuff, nobody knew how bad it affected people. Some of those people are now being kept in camps so that they don't reproduce or marry or intermarry, to cause more of those disabilities in communities in Asia. Anywhere where that was used, they have grouped them together so that they don't spread the condition or genetics to cause more. In Acholi, it will take a lot, because they've already been through camps. I mean, what can you do? How do you stop reproduction? First of all, being that region, Mao describes it very well in the video. I like to refer to Mao because when you people come at me and say I am being tribalistic, please understand that my source of information is not, I don't know, any other tribe or anywhere. So that means I don't mean any harm. I'm coming to you because I am concerned and I care a lot about where we come from. I care a lot. It is about time Museveni answers for what he has done to Acholi, especially, but for the rest of Uganda. And not just that, for East Africa as a whole. I have mentioned Sudan, I've mentioned Uganda, I've mentioned Somalia, I've mentioned Rwanda. Okay? Sudan, since independence, there's no peace. Uganda, since Museveni came to power, starting with the LRA wars, going on to injecting HIV amongst Ugandans, especially the military and every business prominent people. Right now, HIV is very prominent because he's making it worse. He's doing it even more. In Rwanda, Museveni caused the genocide. It was not ignited by Rwandese, the Hutus and Tutsis. Museveni ignited the genocide in Rwanda. In Somalia, he did the same exact thing. He told even Ronald Reagan in a video which I have on my page, if you want, you can go and look. He said, I started fighting Gaddafi before you did. It is documented. I'm not bringing this from somewhere else where I don't understand. I'm not making up things. I'm saying Olala Otunu is not appropriate right now because Museveni needs to account. Because previously, Museveni swatted a judgment by the International Court of Justice of $60 billion that he's supposed to pay to Congo. Museveni was able to call Kofi Annan and get and stop the investigation on the case. So it's not about me. It's not because where I come from. You can talk about the endorsements from everywhere, but think about Honorable Mao, our brother from home. He told us he's going to work with Museveni to bring about transition and bring about change and blah, 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 blah. Today, Honorable Mao is eating with Museveni and he has produced nothing of what he promised. So it is not about tribe. Lumbuye is not about Otunu being Anacholi. Everybody that is saying no to Otunu, it's not because Otunu is Anacholi, but I'm disappointed that my Acholi people who are attacking me do not recall the tears of our forefathers, our relatives and friends who have gone and lost their lives at the expense of being an Acholi, because Museveni feels like it is time to have Acholi wiped off